Alrighty, good evening, everyone. This is meteorologist Timmy Albertson here with you guys for tonight's weather chat here. On a side note, we actually have a new introduction that's going to be accompanying these videos starting this week here, so that'll be kind of interesting. So it won't just pop up with my face right away. With that in mind, though, we got some very above average temperatures still across the upper Midwest. Where I am around Duluth, we got up to about 82 degrees this afternoon. That once again breaks yet another daily record high, but at least it's not quite as warm as it was yesterday. That being said, good news is this above average heat will probably be coming to an end here in the next couple of days across most of the Midwest, albeit it might try to return maybe next week. But that's not the point. The point of the matter is there is at least a little bit of relief on the way. All right, before we get to that, let's take a look over at the tropics. We got Tropical Storm Philippe, which honestly, guys, pretty much every update I have given with Philippe, it's just struggling with wind shear, the convection, the whole thing is just kind of a little bit of a mess here, as a matter of fact. Where is it located? Well, it's located way north of the Virgin Islands. The convection, though, is not really around the center. Again, this thing is just very, if you want an example of a disorganized tropical system, that right there down below is what it looks like. Yeah. All right. So with that in mind, what is Philippe going to be doing? Well, Philippe's going to continue to probably struggle, but it might try to intensify a little bit, but likely staying at least as a tropical storm for the remainder of its life. At least that's what the National Hurricane Center is expecting. Now, interestingly, as we went into the weekend, we had a little bit of the Fujiwara effect that was kind of helping to push Philippe down in a southerly direction. Well, of course, Arena weekend, and now we got this kind of large upper level trough that's setting, or trough ridge that's setting up off towards its east. So again, tropical systems are areas of low pressure. They cannot move a high pressure. Low pressures cannot move. Any type of low pressure can't move a high pressure. High pressures are the dominant ones. So Philippe has no choice but to kind of go around that. And you can kind of see in the beginning of that track how it's moving a little bit to the northwest. Then it kind of curves a little bit in a more northerly direction by the time we get to Thursday. Again, that's it kind of working with that upper level ridge way off towards its east. But then going to get caught up in an upper level trough moving out of the eastern part of the U.S. And that is going to be kind of a good pathway for Philippe to kind of get wedged in between an upper level low and an upper level high. And it's going to accelerate it pretty quickly to the north. And by that point, though, it'll probably lose its tropical characteristics. Might at least be subtropical, but probably won't be a completely tropical system by the time we get into Saturday. And then it'll probably just make a landfall somewhere, maybe around New Brunswick or Maine. Again, not expecting this to be a very strong system when it does that. So let's take a look here. You hear me talking about ridge and troughs and everything like that. Let's take a look here, of course, at the latest upper level chart. Now, for those of you guys who were with me yesterday, we talked a lot about this. This is a surface map. And if we take a look at it, we got this kind of intensifying area of low pressure across southern Manitoba. You can see this cold front kind of extending all the way down across the central part of the plains. Now, the upper level trough that's associated with this is all the way back out across Montana. So there's that low pressure up here. Again, we're going to start seeing it kind of becoming a little bit more stacked as that upper level low begins to move over it. It'll kind of cut it off. This all goes into part of the average life cycle of a low pressure system, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, and we'll talk more about as we continue our way through the fall season. But basically, that's kind of the upper level setup. So here's this upper level trough, borderline closed low yesterday. And then again, here's that upper level ridge making its way across the lower part of the Midwest. So we have, if we were to kind of take a look at this, we're looking right now at about see here, we're looking about 30,000 feet up here. These black lines that you see here are equal heights. And again, we talked a little bit about that yesterday during the weather chat, and I won't go into a lot of detail about it tonight just because we talked about it yesterday. So if you want to know a little bit more about what exactly you're looking at on these maps here, check out last night's weather chat. All right, so there's our upper level trough. Now we're going to head over to a website of Tropical Tidbits. And the only reason I'm showing you this one is just because it is the quickest one I could find to get kind of a model of what's going to be going on. Now, again, folks, when I show these models, keep in mind that it's a model, and there are many runs of models, and there are many types of models, and there are many things to interpret with models. So don't take these exactly as is. I'm not promoting one over the other. I'm just showing this because generally, despite the disagreements that they have, at least in the short and mid-range, time frames, they do kind of help to at least kind of illustrate kind of the bigger picture of what's going to be going on. So we're looking at here, not quite as high as what we did on the other map, but on the other map we're looking about 30,000 feet. This one we're only looking about 18 to 20,000 feet up, but you get the idea. So again, here's our lines of equal height. There is our ridge. So we go ahead and move this up a little bit, make sure that we're at the starting point here. We're going to back this up to, there we go. All righty, folks. Right about there is where we are now. All right, so right there is our upper level ridge, or upper level high, I guess. Now, again, not the strongest thing, but there's Philippe down here. So again, Philippe has no choice but to try going around that upper level high. Now, back over here is our upper level trough, okay? So we got this little bit of a ridge that's kind of hanging out here, and we got a little bit of activity here, but for the most part, this is just going to kind of break down a little bit. So as we move our way through the day tomorrow, again, we can see that ridge kind of working its way off the eastern coast. Now there is a little bit of a low here around Florida, but for right now, we'll just kind of consider that negligible. You get what I'm saying. It's there, but we'll just kind of ignore it. All right, so here's our upper level trough now. Again, we can see it's making its way through the upper part of the Midwest. And really, when that whole area of low pressure kind of becomes stacked over it and everything, this thing is really going to intensify. This trough here is going to basically develop into what is known as kind of more or less almost a closed upper level low. So where's Philippe by this point? Well, Philippe's hanging down around here. So again, there's that ridge. It's just kind of working its way, trying to get around it. But now it's going to start getting caught in the upper level flow of that trough. And take a look here as we head towards the weekend. You can see that trough really begins to kind of intensify as it makes its way across the upper Midwest, kind of develops into this closed low. And right there, you can see Philippe is going to start getting kind of sucked into it more or less. And this is generally how most tropical systems end anyway. They get absorbed into some of these stronger upper level lows that move across the mid latitudes there. So there you go. Boom, right there. So what does this also tell us? It means we're probably going to be seeing some active weather and across parts of the Great Lakes and into the Northeast as we go into the weekend, probably making for some rainy football forecast, that's for sure. We'll take more of a look at that as we get closer to that. But again, also bringing in some cooler temperatures. Now, you heard me mention last evening, and again, we won't go into the reasons, but a lot of times we see kind of the cooler temperatures, the coolest temperatures associated with these type of systems, generally kind of on this side, kind of on the back side of this whole upper level trough, generally speaking, not including localized effects and other atmospheric conditions. But again, we're probably going to be seeing very cool temperatures across Minnesota, Wisconsin, as we head our way towards the weekend. Now, again, there's our upper level low. Now let's look a little far out just for giggles. Let's go beyond here, the forecast. This particular model wants to keep that upper level low hanging around, but we do see upper level ridging once again returning. So a lot of upper level stuff, folks. What does this mean at the surface for some symbols that you might be a little bit more familiar with? Let's go ahead and take a look over at our friends at the Weather Prediction Center, part of the NOAA branch there, and let's take a look at the surface chart here and what they're expecting. So again, we got forecasters all across AWSC here, but for simplicity reasons, we're just going to use this map for tonight. All right, let's take a look here. All right, there's an area of high pressure right off the east coast there. Again, this is about this evening. There's our area of low pressure. You can see it making its way into Canada. Now, it's just going to kind of hang around there as we go into the day tomorrow. There's that cold front trying to advance. That upper level low will continue to kind of intensify. That's going to kind of help this whole system to maybe this low pressure to kind of intensify a little bit more up across northern Ontario and just off screen there up around parts of northern Manitoba. Then we're going to kind of see this upper level, trough kind of continuing to maybe even intensify a little bit. We get this little secondary area of low pressure at the surface. That's going to be kind of rounding quickly the base of this. So while we get to tomorrow evening, you can see that cold front pushing its way across the Midwest, down across parts of the Central Plains and into Oklahoma. Showers and thunderstorms going to be likely along that area. There's that high pressure kind of continuing to weaken as it makes its way off the East Coast. Again, this right here is going to be probably the cold front that not only takes away the first one is going to help to lower those temperatures across the upper Midwest, but this is probably going to be the cold front that's really going to bring in those more fall temperatures here. So again, that's that cooler air now really rushing in from Canada as we have that upper level low continuing to spin up to the north. Air column continues to cool down, and we can see as we go into Thursday, that secondary cold front begins to push its way across the upper Midwest, and we're going to be seeing those temperatures dropping. Now, there is probably going to be some rain showers associated with that second low area of low pressure. So there might be a little bit of a lull between the activity that could be tonight and into tomorrow across the upper Midwest, maybe a little bit of a break. But then as we go into Thursday, could have another chance for at least a few rain showers around the region. All right, let's take a look here. Let's advance in another frame here. What happens as we go into Thursday night? You can see that low pressure continues to work its way into Western Ontario. That cooler air continues to filter its way in. It's going to catch up with that cold front, the first cold front, and eventually this whole front is going to take over and push its way over towards the west, or excuse me, towards the east. Wow, towards the east. Get my direction straight here. I am trying to tell you guys about weather, and I can't even get east and west straight. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's go a little bit further out into the forecast here. So this is going into Friday morning. There's Philippe. You can see it right there. Remember, our upper level trough is going to be building. You can see right here, it's probably going to be right around this area. You can see that low pressure becoming stacked. It's going to get pulled right underneath that upper level low. And again, that allows that. Basically, it is the beginning of the end of a particular low pressure, but folks, we're probably going to see a new one developing. You can see how it tracks its way then into Ontario. Look at that high pressure that sets up across the central part of the U.S. That's going to make it very, very quiet for a good chunk of the upper Midwest, upper plains, and maybe even going into parts of the Ohio River Valley once we get this activity to clear out here. You can see a little bit of a trough there, could maybe keep a few showers around down in Ohio without going into a lot of detail. And this is looking into Saturday morning. All right, what happens as we go into the day on Sunday? Look at that. That low pressure might be a little hard for you to see because I might be blocking it here, so I'll go ahead quickly and move my picture over here. Take a look at that. That thing just really kind of intensifies. That's that whole upper level low, and by that point, Philippe is already absorbed into all of that. And as life cycles go with most low pressures, this is the weakening low pressure. This will be the new one that will probably take over. So again, we see this kind of a lot of times when they get caught underneath the upper level low. We'll see that column begin to weaken up, or at least that low pressure begin to weaken up because there's a lot of cooler air in the columns, and we'll see a new one developing just a little further off towards the east in what is known as the triple point. And again, we'll talk more about that at a future date there. So in weather, folks, everything is connected, and that's just kind of a really quick explanation of what's going to be happening over the next few days here. So we're going to be seeing some interesting weather, not so much in the tropics, but with this pretty decent low pressure system that's going to track its way through, really helping to kind of cool things down. Unfortunately, though, for those of you who are like me, and if you like winter weather, this is kind of some bad news, in that we could probably be seeing things warming up yet again, though, as we go towards next work week. Upper level ridge kind of develops across the Rocky Mountains and then back into the upper plains, and you can already start to kind of see the signature of that with this warm front. It's going to kind of lift across parts of the plains, and yes, folks, it's probably going to be above average temperatures yet again. So, but for at least a few days, we'll get pretty much a kind of a nice looking fall here. But I will say, though, for the eastern part, it's probably going to stay a little bit below average. Let's go ahead and take a look what the Climate Prediction Center has out there. And I mentioned this a few times before. This does not necessarily correlate to values per se. Rather, it's just the likelihood of over a certain time frame that the average temperature will be either above or below average. Okay. Typically, where we see higher likelihoods means higher probably values of above or below average temperatures, depending on what direction we're looking at. But you get the idea. So as we go to October 9th to the 13th, so this is looking into next week. This is 6 to 10 days out. Look at that. Below average temperature is going to be likely out across the eastern part of the U.S. But look at that. With that ridge already building right behind where I am, I'm going to go ahead and move that picture over again. Take a look there. You can see above average temperatures building back up across the upper part of the Midwest, in the plains, and into parts of the Canadian prairies. So that's that. All right, that was a lot of information. It's exciting for me. All right, so with that in mind, everyone, that's just kind of a quick look at what's going on across the U.S. So as we go into tomorrow, we'll take yet another look at this upper level, system here and this low pressure, and we'll kind of track it over the next couple of days as it tries to work its way through. And this is kind of a preview of the type of systems that we tend to see, especially once we get into late fall and going into winter, and then obviously into late winter and early spring. Peak time for seeing strong low pressures in the northern hemisphere, especially in the U.S. So with that in mind, folks, there you go. All righty, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed this weather chat here. Kind of a quick one for the night tonight, but we'll be back here tomorrow evening with another look at all this. And until that time, I hope you all have a good rest of your evening. And as always, enjoy that weather.